icLAAo, I can't lose. No reality where I lose. Ever. We're back with the 1 year challenge, progressive, 100 push-ups, 100 squats. Every month we add 10 reps for the whole year. Today's message is you have to just let things go. Never be too outcome dependent, because there's a lot of things that are truly not in your control, and that's just part of life. You control what you can control, and the ones that you can't control, you put it in God's hands, and everything happens for a reason. So if it happened, there's a reason for it. So let's get started.
Kilo.
Every great transformation in a man's life begins the moment he realizes a brutal, unspoken truth. Your mind is your kingdom, and you are either its ruler or its prisoner. The world doesn't break men, their mind does. Chaos doesn't destroy men, their thoughts do. Temptation doesn't ruin men, their inability to govern themselves does. A man who loses his inner war loses every outer one. But a man who wins his inner war can walk through fire and remain unburned.
25
You must understand this. Your mind is the birthplace of every destiny and every downfall. Before a man falls into addiction, he falls in his mind. Before he betrays his purpose, he betrays his mind. Before he wastes his potential, he wastes his attention. And before he becomes disciplined, unshakable, unbreakable, he first wins control of his inner world. This is why history reveres the men who mastered themselves. Not because they were always victorious, but because they never surrendered their mind to fear, lust, comfort, or chaos. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You become what your mind tolerates." He didn't mean your circumstances, he meant your character. What you tolerate in your thoughts, you eventually tolerate in your life. Think small, live small. Think defeated, act defeated. Think disciplined, walk
25
disciplined.
squat.
Think righteous, become righteous. A man's life is nothing more than the shadow of his mind. The most powerful men in the history weren't the strongest, but were those who had controlled their own mind. Strength without self-control becomes violence. Talent without self-control becomes waste. Power without self-control becomes destruction. But a man with self-control becomes unstoppable. Look at the greatest kings, inventors, warriors, leaders, creators, the ones remembered centuries later. They were not merely gifted, they were focused. They guarded their mind like a treasure vault. They treated their attention like sacred currency. They knew distraction was death long before phones, apps, noise, and endless stimulation existed. They lived with one simple law. If you lose your mind, you lose your life. This is why monks isolate, why warriors meditate before battle, why prophets retreat to the mountains, why emperors study philosophy. It isn't weakness, it's preparation, a sharpening of the internal blade before facing the external world. You cannot command your life until you command your own life. But the man who wants control of his life without control of his mind is like a king begging a crowd for permission. A weak mind cannot create a strong life. A distracted mind cannot create a focused life. A fearful mind cannot create a courageous life. You must become the guardian of your thoughts, the master of your inner voice. When the world pulls you, your mind must anchor you. When temptation whispers, your mind must silence it. When chaos rises, your mind must stay still. When fear surrounds you, your mind must stand firm. This is the mindset of a man who owns his life. Not a boy reacting to everything, but a man governing everything. Not because someone imprisoned them, but because they never learned to resist themselves. They're prisoners to their scrolling, prisoners to their impulses, prisoners to their ego, prisoners to the opinions of strangers, prisoners to the temporary high of comfort, prisoners to fantasies and desires, prisoners to anxiety and doubt, prisoners to memories
50
they
push-ups.
refuse to release. The chains are invisible, but the effects are real. No cage is stronger than the one a man builds in his own mind. And yet, the key has always been in his hand. He simply never learned how to use it. Every day you wake up, your mind becomes a battlefield. Your discipline fights your impulses. Your purpose fights your distractions. Your faith fights your fears. Your focus fights your laziness. Your strength fights your weakness. This battle does not end. It is fought daily, hourly, moment by moment. But here is what separates the strong from the weak. Strong men expect the battle. Weak men are surprised by it. When you expect the battle, you train for it. You prepare for it. You strengthen yourself for it. You become a warrior of the unseen world, a soldier of thought, a guardian of purpose. This is the power of a disciplined mind. It doesn't fear chaos, it commands it. The mind of a king. Don't react. Kings don't panic.
50 squats.
Kings don't break under pressure. Kings don't seek validation. Kings don't let emotions control their decisions. Why? Because they rule. They rule kingdoms, but most importantly, they rule themselves. A king without self-mastery is merely a man wearing gold. But a man with self-mastery is a king without a crown. Your throne is not outside you. It is within you. And until you sit on that inner throne, life will feel out of control. Take your throne back. Command your focus. Command your time. Command your desires. Command your discipline. Command your spirit. Because the man who sits on the throne of his mind cannot be overthrown by anything outside him. The most dangerous man is the man who owns his inner world. Why? Because he becomes impossible to manipulate. You can't tempt him. He controls himself. You can't discourage him. He knows his path. You can't break him. His strength comes from within. You can't confuse him. His clarity is internal. You can't intimidate him. He fears God, not men. You can't distract him. His purpose is anchored. You can't corrupt him. He's loyal to heaven, not impulse. This type of man is rare. This type of man is powerful. This type of man is unstoppable. This type of man owns his mind. A man who has not mastered his mind is a slave pretending to be free. But a man who owns his mind owns his future, his destiny, and his entire life. When a man finally understands the power of his own thoughts, he stops fearing life. He starts shaping it. Because the battlefield was never the world outside. The real battle has always been the quiet war inside your own head. Every doubt, every fear, every impulse that pulls you off your path, those are not harmless. Those are enemies disguised as thoughts. A weak man lets those enemies lead him. A strong man confronts them, questions them, breaks them, replaces them. He rewires himself with intention. He trains his mind the same way a warrior trains his body, daily, relentlessly, with discipline and clarity. Start with the thoughts you allow to stay. If a thought speaks weakness, reject it. If a thought speaks fear, challenge it. If a thought speaks destruction, crush it before it roots itself inside you. Because your mind is not a playground, it's a forge, and your life is the weapon it creates. A man who owns his mind, owns his habits, his focus, his emotions, his direction. Nothing external can shake him because nothing external controls him. Most men never rise because they never silence the noise inside them. They're ruled by impulses, dragged by temptations,
75
controlled by distractions. Their mind is like an open door. Anything can walk in and take command. But the man who owns his mind, he locks that door. He decides who enters. He decides what stays. He decides what shapes him. He doesn't act from emotion, he acts from intention. He doesn't chase comfort, he chases mastery. He doesn't wait for motivation. And here's the truth most refuse to face. Your mind is either your servant or your master. If you don't control it, it will control you. Every time you choose order over chaos, focus over distraction, principle over impulse, you are taking back territory inside yourself. Bit by bit, thought by thought, decision by decision, you reclaim your power. And soon, your mind stops being a prison and becomes a throne, a place where clarity rules, a place where conviction lives, a place where no fear, no man, no circumstance can overthrow you. Because once you master the inner kingdom, the outer world becomes yours to build.
75 score.
A man's greatest battles are never fought with fists. They're fought in silence, in darkness, and in the unseen chambers of his own mind. Because the mind is a battlefield, and every day you wake up to war. War against doubt, war against fear, war against laziness, temptation, and old habits trying to drag you back into the man you're trying to bury. Most men lose that war before they even step out of bed, not because they are weak, but because they never built the mental armor a warrior needs. But you're choosing a different path. You're choosing to stand guard over your thoughts. You're choosing discipline over drift. You're choosing responsibility over excuses. That's the mark of a man who owns his mind. He doesn't let every emotion become a command. He doesn't let every fear become a prophecy. He doesn't let every doubt become a chain around his destiny. Instead, he filters his thoughts like a soldier guards the gate. If a thought weakens him, he rejects it. If a thought distracts him, he replaces it. If a thought builds him, he multiplies it. Because he knows a single undisciplined thought can destroy your life, but a single powerful thought can rebuild it. And when a man truly grasps that, when he realizes he is the architect of everything inside, he stops living like a victim and starts living like a force. Not moved by the world, but moving through the world with purpose, not shaped by circumstances, but shaping circumstances with presence and clarity. This is where the shift happens. This is where a man steps out of survival and into sovereignty. A man who owns his mind is not controlled by the noise of the world. He does not react blindly to every message, every trend, every insult, every distraction designed to drain him. He moves with intention, because intention is the weapon of the mentally fortified. But let's be honest, most men today live with their minds completely exposed, unguarded, and vulnerable. They wake up and immediately hand over their focus to their phones. They let the opinions of strangers decide how they feel for the entire day. They let temptation pull them like puppets. They let anxiety narrate their lives. They don't think for themselves. They consume thoughts from everywhere else. But listen carefully. A man who does not control the environment of his mind will be controlled by the environment around him. Your mind is soil. Whatever you plant will grow. Fear grows if you feed it. Weakness grows if you water it. Discipline grows if you nurture it. Faith grows if you protect it. Strength grows if you consistently cultivate it. And you must decide what seeds you're planting every single day. Because, here's the truth, most won't admit, you don't become mentally strong by accident. You become mentally strong by building systems, routines, and boundaries that support the man you want to become. The warrior does not sharpen his blade once and expect it to stay sharp forever. He sharpens it daily. That's how a man must sharpen his mind every morning, every night, every moment that matters. You sharpen your mind by doing the things you don't feel like doing. You sharpen your mind by saying no when your impulses want to say yes. You sharpen your mind by sitting with discomfort instead of running from it. Because discomfort is a sculptor. Pressure is a teacher. Delay is a furnace. And discipline is the bridge that carries a man from who he is to who he was meant to be. When you own your mind, you stop negotiating with your excuses. Your emotions may whisper to you, but they no longer control your steps. Your fears may speak, but they no longer dictate your decisions. Your doubts may rise, but they no longer hold the power to paralyze you. Instead, you make decisions from conviction, from clarity, from purpose. That is when a man becomes dangerous, not because he threatens anyone, but because nothing threatens him. A mentally disciplined man is calm in chaos. He is steady under pressure. He is unmoved by distractions. He is unshaken by uncertainty. He does not crumble under the weight of life. He carries it like a soldier carries his shield. This level of mental control does not come from being gifted. It comes from being deliberate. It comes from choosing the harder path, the cleaner path, the path that forces you to rise. It comes from understanding that your mind is the command center of your destiny. If your mind is cluttered, your life will be cluttered. If your mind is chaotic, your days will be chaotic. If your mind is weak, your actions will be weak. But if your mind is strong, your life becomes structured, powerful, clear,